Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean Williams. Hello and good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to another Hodge episode of Bravery Within. Today, I know I always say that I try to keep everything on a very, very upbeat and positive note, and I'm going to try my very, very hardest on this episode, but I wanted you to know it's kind of as a disclaimer as I lead into this episode. This one here is this one really basically cuts to the core for me. It's really difficult to talk about because in some respects I'm giving out secrets of what makes a man a man. And I know I have a lot of lady listeners out there, and I just don't want you to think that this is a direct attack on you. I don't want you to think that in any way, shape, or form. Just know that I'm trying to, today's episode is all about trying to get folks to understand kind of the way men think and the way they're perceived are typically two different things. But the Hodgepodge episode number 13 today is A Broken Man's Heart. And I'm 49 years old, let's be honest here and stuff. And yes, I've had my heart broken many, many times. I've talked, I've hinted about my divorce and what I've done since then. And there's a real reason why, actually there's a lot of reasons why I wanted to talk about this episode. I'm trying to find a positive spin to it. So if there's any negativity, please don't take it that way, but I'll do my very best to keep everything on a positive note. But there was something that happened to me, probably a month and a half ago. And it's been one of those things that just kind of just rattles around in my head. And it just been thinking, and it hurt on so many different levels. There was some truth to it. I'm not going to argue that point. But it hurt on so many different levels. So to kind of get you to understand where I'm going with this episode and stuff here, I want to tell you I'll keep the story short. And remember, I'm not attacking anybody or making anybody look like the bad guy or anything here. What it did is it prompted me to talk about this episode in the hopes of maybe I can help a couple other guys out there. I've had other guys talk to me and stuff there, and the first thing that they come up and say is I'm not weak. I'm talking about my feelings, but I'm not weak. And I just want it made very clear to all the men out there. You can talk about your feelings, you can have them, you can act on them, whatever it is. Just know that we're human and we were programmed with emotions as well. Even though society says we have to keep them locked up, you have to shut your face, you have to compartmentalize them, you can't process them, you can't talk about them, you can't feel them, you can't do anything. From the moment that I think I could start understanding English, I was starting to be programmed as what society wants out of a man. And that is just basically you take all the abuse, you shut your face, and you move on. And one thing I raised my son differently, saying it's okay to have feelings, because I wanted him to know it is okay. I have been trying to learn that myself. I've been trying to deprogram that thought of what society expects out of men. And it's very, very difficult. It's really, really ingrained, because pretty much all the guys that are around me in this area, we're all pretty much programmed the same. And I say programmed because it's not taught, it's programmed, because the moment that we all start walking and we all start understanding English, we get told you can't show pain, you can't show fear, you can't show emotion, nothing like that. And there's nothing that's more difficult than that, than we have feelings too when you really, really break it down. And I know there's going to be probably a lot of men out there that are going to, no, I don't have any feelings. I'm big and tough and strong. Yes, you are. I'm not saying just because you have feelings doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you anything but maybe a little bit more vulnerable. And that's something that none of us men like. No arguments there. We don't like to appear weak. We don't want to appear vulnerable. We want to appear to always have the answers and able to take care of any situation at any time. but that's the way we were raised, and that's the way we were programmed all the way through our lives. Is that's what we have to do. We have to be the providers and everything there. So what I wanted to do is and it's not much. And remember, I'm not trying to attack anybody in this here. I'm just trying to bring basically a different point of view, hopefully, to this whole, and you can break it down to toxic masculinity if you want to. I mean, it falls back to that. And I want to try to say not everybody falls in that category. I know it's like in this world, it's either all or nothing. There doesn't seem to be anything in the middle like what there used to be anymore, where you could, compromise on things. It's just you're either toxic or something, nothing. I guess I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I'm not spoofing on that one there. I'm really confused on the whole thing on how men are so hated and distrusted and just abused anymore. And so there was one, I was at this convenience store one day, and I was going to go for a drive in the hills. And I walked in, and there was all kinds of laughing, and people were talking and stuff. And you just hear the normal ambiance that's in the background, just the normal noise and everything that's going on. So you don't really pay much attention to it. Because I was by myself, and I'm just bebopping into the store. And the first thing I do is I head over to the fountain machine and stuff there, and I get myself my Mountain Dew because I'm going for a drive in the hills. And I always like to have a little bit of something to drink, just in case you either get stuck or, you have problems. And let's be honest, a good Mountain Dew is, that's just awesome. So I was just at the fountain machine, and it was one of those where these two ladies, and they were in their 20s. I'm guessing, I'm not real good at this area, but they were young. Let's just say that. And I was just standing there filling my pop, and I heard them just basically say at that point there how they both had just broken up in a relationship, because they weren't being quiet about this in any way, shape, or form. I don't listen into other conversations in any way, shape. I'm not interested in what other people are talking about. But they were very, very loud, and they were making it very known that they had just broken up with their men. And so I thought, okay, well, that's kind of bad. I'm going to stay out of the way. I don't want to get, I don't want to be involved in that. So I finished filling up my Mountain Dew, and I was putting the lid on, and one of the ladies looked over at me and completely blew me away. And she says, are you in a relationship? And I'm going, okay, well, I don't know who you are. And I said, I think that's kind of personal to talk about. So but I thought, okay, to get out of this and to get out of town, where that's what I was trying to do, I just said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not. And I started to walk off, because I didn't want anything to do with the conversation. That's pretty personal, and I don't know who you are. And I was afraid that the way they were talking, they were kind of looking for a fight. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I'm positive. I build people up, not tear them down. And I start to walk off. She goes, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. And they're being a big fat piece of, and I can't say the rest of it, you wouldn't be in a relationship. Nobody would want you. And it was kind of like, okay, well, thank you for your opinion. I didn't ask for it, but okay, thanks. And I walked off. And I got to thinking, okay, I know you're hurting, or obviously, I don't know if they were hurting. I mean, they were laughing and tee-hee and ha-ha, so I guess it couldn't have been hurting too much. But it basically brought up the question in my head saying, when did it become okay to tear men down constantly? And no matter what you watch on TV or you hear on the radio or when you go to social media, my goodness sakes, it has blown up on social media. But all it is anymore is tear men down. I mean, destroy them. It's okay to, take their hearts and throw them on the ground and stomp on them and chew them up and don't care about the ramifications behind it. And I was really, really taken back. I was kind of like, okay, well, I remember back in the day and stuff there, and still to this day, honestly, even though with all the hatred that is for men that are out there, it really breaks my heart. But I always try to hold people up. I always try to find the better side of them. Always try to find the good in somebody. And yes, it's difficult at times. There's no doubt about it, because there's some people that are just, determined to just be naughty or be mean. That's just the way some people want to come across. And I'm guessing that's from having a rough life themselves. That's all I can assume. And they're just basically venting all their anger and their pain and their heartache. And I'm guessing that's what it is, because I don't know how else to take it besides just being flat out, just being mean. And I like to think that they're not just doing it to be mean. But that whole night while I was doing my drive, it basically it resonated in my head about, okay, well, nobody's interested in me. And it's and as I've talked in one of my other podcasts, is, yes, I did use, my size, my fat, my over 300 pounds of extra weight. I hid behind it in the event, because I know skinny people don't want to be with fat people. I know that. That's just the way the world is, and that's okay. I don't have any problem with it. So I actually used it to protect me, so I didn't get into a relationship or take the chance of getting hurt again. And with them running across and then asking that question and those comments, it pretty much just locked in, saying, okay, well, I guess maybe I was right by trying to protect myself. But what they don't understand is and I know some of the younger generation, and I know there's a misconception that the younger generation of men are weaker. And I don't think that's true necessarily, because all I see is they're being raised differently compared to the robots, essentially, that when I was being raised, of how you had to be. And most everybody in the area that I know is men walk around, you don't talk about anything, you lock it away, you act like everything's okay, and you go to work, you provide for your family, you come home, do whatever it takes to keep the family going, take care of the kids, all of this stuff. That's just the way, especially in this area, there's a lot of old school and old beliefs that are still in this area. And I'm fine with that. I think old school has its place, don't get me wrong. But the common misconception that I think the world has, and I could be completely wrong, and I'm sure I'm going to get backlash for this episode. I'm just almost positive that I'm going to get backlash. And like I said, I am not trying to attack anybody, and I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm trying to make sense of what is going on in the world anymore, all this hatred towards men, and it breaks my heart, because if you're old school like me, and like I said, I keep using the word programmed, but it's also learned. I mean, this is the way we were taught from the moment we started walking and understanding English. Is you provide for your family, you protect the women, you help them out, you open a car door, you open the main door for them, you buy supper, all of that stuff. That's the way we were raised. And that is in a complete conflict with everything that's going on today. But when you're brought up on these beliefs, and like I said, I'm 49 years old. I don't know any other way. I am trying to figure out how to change into these new beliefs and these new ways to hang on to my ethics and my morals, and yet fit into today's society of what they think men is. And then once I start trying to think, okay, well, if I did this, or I gave in a little bit this, or I talk a little bit more about this, then I hear, and I've had ladies tell me before, is, well, we like a sensitive man. We want a man that's going to open up. We want a man that's going to cry on our shoulders. We want somebody that's going to trust us. Okay, I agree. I think that's a great thing to be able to, I would love to find somebody that I could be open with and tell them how I am, and they're not going to judge me, and they're going to accept me for who I am, because I too am just the type of, I keep it all locked up. I have talked about this many times in my podcast, where you keep it locked up, you compartmentalize it, and you put it away. You don't process it, you don't think about it or nothing. It would be great to find somebody that I could be just myself with, and allow, for all intents purposes, allow my walls to come down once in a while and not have to be the strong one all the time, because that is the way men are perceived, is they have to be the strong ones all the time. And the moment we start showing weakness, back to that story, the moment that we start showing weakness, then I've literally been told this by women. They say, well, it's not attractive. I already tried it. My man was a little softer, or he cried a little bit, or he was weak, and I didn't like it. So you know what? I'm not, I want him to go back to the old way. Well, you go back to the old way, then you get in trouble for not showing any emotion. You show a little bit of emotion, and then you get in trouble for that. So somebody like me that is trying to figure out how to basically navigate the waters to get through this new world is nearly impossible, because I honestly, I want to be there. I like being able to, and I don't just hold doors open for ladies. I hold doors open for men. When in the morning when I go and get my breakfast and get my Mountain Dew so I can get through the day, if somebody holds a door open for me, man or woman, it doesn't matter. I always tell them thank you and have a good day. It's not just a matter of just saying thank you. I wish them to have a good day as well, because I really want them to. Because if they took just a couple seconds and held a door open when they didn't have to, they could have just let it slam in my face. And trust me, I've had that too, more times than I count. But I have never done that to somebody else. When they're coming up there, I always hold the door. It doesn't matter if my hands are full or whatever. It doesn't matter if you're man or woman. I still hold the door open because I think it's the proper way is. It's etiquette, it's manners, and that's. So much of that is gone, and I don't know what has happened to it over the past 10 years. It's just like it just dissolved and it's gone. It's heartbreaking, because that's how we make it through life, is we help each other out. We put each other forward. We put them in the best light possible. If they're having troubles, you go there and you talk to them, you help them, you're there for them. And I know it's not always easy, because there's so many people that take advantage of it. So it is such a tough road to walk. But then if you get somebody like me, where you're just quiet, you're just getting your Mountain Dew, and you're putting the lid on, and all of a sudden you get asked a question, and then you get fat shamed right out of the shotgun, it makes it very difficult to try to find the good in people and find the good in our society. But I always try to. I try so very hard to. And that's why all my podcasts, I do everything in my power to tackle, tougher things. There's things that we're talking about, as I talk about the introvert stuff, and different things that I've talked about in my Hodgepodge podcast, is I'm trying to always find a positive to keep everything moving forward, to always put a bright light or a positive light or a positive spin on everything. But when you get fat shamed like that, it is so very difficult. And I didn't say nothing. I just said thank you for your opinion, and I just walked away. And I think it caught them off guard, because I don't know if they were looking for a fight or what it is. Now, could I have gotten down and dirty and said all kinds of nasty things? Of course I could have. But what good is going to come out of it? Nothing that I'm aware of. They can have their opinions, and that's fine. If that's what the way they feel and that's what they want to do, that's okay. You go ahead and you be you, and I'll be me. I just choose not to get down in the down and dirty and be that way. Unless I'm completely backed into a corner, that's the only way that I'm going to do that, because I'll just find, if that's the way you want to be, that's okay. If that's the way you feel about me, that's fine. I mean, I can't change how you feel about me. But there's so many times that, and I know there's going to be men out there that are going to be mad, because I'm kind of revealing some, I don't know if it's dark secrets or misconceptions or what it is. But the one thing that I wanted to basically bring to you is, when you break a man's heart, it takes a lot for us to be vulnerable with somebody. And it doesn't matter whether you're vulnerable and your partner is a woman or your partner is a man. It does not matter which one it is. The whole point of when a man becomes and shows a little bit of vulnerability, you have no idea how much work we have to get to that point to be able to trust somebody and let them in. And the more you get hurt over time, it makes it that much more difficult to open up. And and you're probably saying out there, well, Sean, we already kind of know that. Well, that's one thing that I've talked to other people, and it's completely caught them completely off guard. They say, well, no, men are just rocks and they don't care, and they want their beer and they want to sit in the garage and belch and fart and all this stuff. Well, not all of us fall into that stereotypical man. There's a lot of us that actually we do have a lot of feelings, and anybody that I've ever dated can agree to that. They can't say anything else, because I was there. I would always call, or in the newer age, I would send a text, or I would send flowers to their work, or I would meet them for lunches, and I would bring a picnic lunch, or I would have supper ready to go. I would always do something to let them know that they're important to me and I want them in my life. But the problem is that always got used and abused, and I got thrown out into the curb, because every time that I would try to, basically be me and show a little bit of emotion, then everything shut down, and then they were gone. I mean, I've lost friends over it, because I try to talk a little bit about either feelings, and they run for the door, because they're so used, I think, used to men not having emotions. Well, I hate to break your heart, but we actually do. We keep it hidden, and most men are not going to admit it. They definitely are not going to admit when they get hurt, because we felt vulnerable and somebody took advantage of us, and it feels like we should be able to just instantly bounce back from that and nothing is going to bother us. Well, nothing can be further from the truth, and I know that's going to get me in trouble with a lot of the men out there by divulging this, but one thing that I have learned is, whether you like it or not, and I get told this all the time, I'm human and I'm not Superman. No man's an island, and you have emotions, you have ups, you have downs, you get hurt, you feel bad, you're happy, you're all of this stuff. And the thing that probably people don't understand is we don't get to really express those emotions. The only ones that we really get to express are anger, because that's what everybody seems to allow. But there's no good that comes out of anger, none whatsoever. I mean, bad things happen. We don't get to, is the moment that we start showing a little bit of love or compassion for somebody, it's almost like, whoa, wait a minute, dude, you can't be doing that there. You need to, lock it all away. And I know that there's other guys out there that do show emotion, and they're lucky. I mean, they're not. I wish I could be that way, where I could be that open with people. But like I said, from the moment that I started walking, we're not allowed to show pain. Somebody can come up and punch you in the shoulder as hard as they absolutely can. You have to stand there and take it. And you can't show emotion. You can't show that it hurts. You can't cringe. You can't in any way, shape, or form, or somebody will eat you alive. I mean, they'll go after you because they think you're weak and you're not a real man. Or if somebody comes up and says something horribly mean to you, you have to stand there and take it. You're not allowed to say anything back. Now, I know there's other men that do, and that's fine. But there's some of us out there that I refuse to attack back unless there's absolutely no other choice. And from the, like I keep saying, from the very, very beginning, all we're supposed to do is basically just shut our mouths and go on like nothing ever happened. If we have children, we have to put our noses to the grindstone. We have to go to work, provide for them, take care of them. And it doesn't matter whether we have a broken heart or not. We're not allowed to basically mourn the loss of somebody, or basically just be us. Whether you like it or not, when a man's heart gets broken, we still have emotions. But for the most part, we're not allowed to show them. We're not allowed to do anything with them. It's just, you know what? Shut your face, go to work, make a paycheck, bring it home so we can eat. And being a single father, that was very, very difficult. I mean, the whole time, that I've been with pretty much anybody in my entire life, they've never really allowed me to be me. And every time that I've tried to be me, it's like, oh, well, wait a minute here. I'm not interested in that side of you. Just basically just go to work, be happy, and lock everything away. And that's a really, really tough road to hoe, because some of us, when you've been in a relationship for a long time, or you're close to somebody for a very long time, and then they go and they just dump on you and throw you away, and sometimes you don't even have warning. I mean, you can come home one day and all of a sudden everything changes. Like, what just happened? It's like kind of like a tornado that hit, where it's like, okay, I thought we were doing good, but all of a sudden we're ending up in a divorce, or we're breaking up, and you don't even know why. And you're just kind of just discombobulated for a little bit. But the worst part of it is we're not allowed to mourn the loss. We have to just, basically buckle down, lock it away, and keep right on moving like nothing ever happened. We've been taught and experienced our whole life about being rejected. I mean, we're the ones that have to make the first move constantly. 99% of the time we have to do the first one. So we get used to being rejected, because 99% of the time we get shot down. Like me, I mean, I wasn't even asking for anything, and I got fat shamed. And it was like, okay, I guess it's okay to tear me down in public in front of a bunch of other people. I've been in grocery stores before where I've asked, can I help you just get that off the shelf, because I was a little bit taller, to get something off a taller shelf, and I've had people absolutely blow up at me, and say, get away from me, you're just a sicko, you can't be near me. And there was a lot of other colorful metaphors that were used, and I'm not going to use them on the show because I try to keep these clean. But I got to tell you, one time I got so embarrassed by how I was treated by her just absolutely tearing me down. I actually ended up just leaving my cart in the aisle, and I left. I mean, and I didn't go back to that place. I've only been back a couple other times, but it took a long time before I got back, because I was so afraid that somebody is gonna tear me down again. And like I said, I'm not gonna fight back unless I have to. That's your opinion. And I'm sorry for trying to help, is, all I can say on that one there. But it's like, I don't even know what I did. I was raised to where if you see somebody in need, then you help them. That's just the way it is. And when people tell me all the time, well, I don't need you to open the door for me. I'm a strong, independent person. Okay, I know you are. I'm not saying anything else. It's called respect. So when I open the door, that's all I'm doing. I'm not expecting anything. I'm not expecting a date or to get married or anything like that. I'm just trying to be respectful and trying to be nice. But it's like it's not allowed anymore. And when you get somebody like me, that's all I know and that's how I was raised. It's like I don't even know what to do at this point anymore. I'm completely lost. I'm walking on eggshells around everybody anymore, because you just don't know how it's going to be perceived, what they're gonna say, how they're gonna come across, and it's like, okay, well, fine. And the part is like I said, I haven't been in a relationship in a decade, and mainly because of when I got told with my divorce and stuff that people were going to be waiting for me, and then I get the divorce and they weren't. They left me high and dry, and it's like, okay, I lost friends, I lost everything. I mean, when I got divorced, I lost everything, and I had to start over, and I had to do it all on a broken heart. I didn't want to get divorced, not in any way, shape, or form. I cared and loved my ex-wife, and it come as quite a shocker, but sometimes there's just nothing left. I mean, I tried to make it work for 17 years, and it just didn't. But it was kind of like ever since, and it's like I don't know what to do. And I only dated one time after that. It was like 3 years after the divorce, and it didn't last all that long, and it broke my heart, because it was like, okay, well, we're just not a good combination. We're not fitting. So I mean, I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but the relationship just wasn't working for me, so I had to leave well enough alone. So for a decade, I've been operating, for the most part, on a broken man's heart. And the popular misconception is it doesn't pain us, it doesn't hurt us, we don't, it doesn't bother us any, we just go to work. And that's basically the face that we're supposed to put on. We're supposed to act like nothing's wrong. We're supposed to just continue on like we don't, like our heart wasn't ripped out, stomped on, chewed up, and thrown away. We have to keep going. It's expected of us to always be a pillar for our family, our friends, our kids, everything. I mean, we're expected to be the strong ones all the time. And granted, I don't have a problem with that role, because that's the way I was raised, and that's the way I am today, about being the strong one all the time. But there are times where you just want to just say, I need somebody to lean on for a little bit. I need somebody to talk to honestly and openly, that's not going to judge me and not going to hate me, not going to shun me, or walk away when I need them the most. And that's really, really hard to find, because when you try to be that way and lock everything up, then it's called toxic masculinity, where, okay, well, you're just being a horrible, horrible man. When in fact, you're just reeling from a broken heart most of the time, and you just get to a point to where you just don't trust anybody anymore, because you don't know how to move on in some instances. When men don't like to be vulnerable, let's be honest. We like to be the strong ones, we like to be the tough ones, we like to show that nothing ever bothers us. So when we actually open ourselves up to somebody, whether it be a man or woman, it does not matter. Love is love. You shouldn't be told who to love. I mean, your heart that is an organ, it's all on its own. I mean, there is no telling it who you can and can't love. That's really what it comes down to. You can wrestle in your mind with your heart. Your heart's always going to win out. Your mind should say, well, this is who you're supposed to love, this is what society says, this is what you're everything there. But yet on the other hand, your heart says a whole nother thing. And for us, when a man actually falls in love, and he's faithful and loyal to that person, to his partner and everything there, and then you get hurt, for us, I mean, that's about the worst thing that you can actually do to a man, because it's kind of like, okay, well, for us to lower our walls down to let somebody in, is a huge thing. Now, I know some men never do. They're just basically disconnected from their emotions, and I understand that, and that's fine. That's them. That's how they get through life and everything. But some of us are more in depth and in touch with our feelings, but we're not allowed to show them. We're not allowed to talk about them. Nothing. So when we're in a relationship and we're, like I said, it doesn't matter whether it's with a man or a woman in any way, shape, or form. Who you love is who you love, and who you want to be in a relationship, that's your business. That's completely up to you. Because honestly, in this world, there's not enough love, there's not enough caring anymore. It seems like all that's being bred out there is hatred and just unruly rest. It's so heartbreaking, because I think everybody is so stressed out right now with the economy, and they're so stressed out with relationships and work, and how do we pay the bills, how do we put food on the table, how do we take care of our kids, our fur babies, everything. I think there's so much stress and there's so much out there anymore that everybody is just basically walking around with a scowl on their face, because one, they're scared, because it's like, am I going to lose everything all of a sudden? And then to tackle a relationship, and if it's running downhill, it's like, I don't have the strength to fight anymore. And that's and I've felt that way for years. It's kind of like, yes, do I want somebody close to me? Do I want to share my life with somebody? Yes, because honestly, I'm not getting any younger, and I'm nothing really that great to basically look at. So all I got to bring to the relationship is personality. And let me tell you, with all my dad jokes, I can tell the jokes. So but I just want the popular misconception of, when you break a man's heart, you actually do more damage than what you think. So when you're out in public and you're humiliating him, or saying how you're happy about how you tore him down and everything else, I don't see that hardly ever coming from a man saying how they just absolutely destroyed their partner. And it really caught me off guard. It was like, oh my goodness, is this what our society has come to anymore? Is it's okay to tear down men for your own happiness? It blew me away. It breaks my heart, because it's like, I know our race, our species, we could be so much better. We have the capabilities of being that way. But it was just like, okay, so what I wanted to say, and I wanted to ask him, okay, so you're tearing those guys down that you broke up with. So what kind of damage do you feel that you did to them? Do you know how long it takes for a man to actually start trusting again? It takes a lot longer, because it's like we allowed ourselves to be vulnerable with somebody. And it's like, okay, now granted, don't get me wrong, there's some guys, and same with women, that as soon as you break up, they're going out and they're hitting the town and living up life. But I think that has a lot to do with is they don't want to process the hurt, the emotion, the loss, and everything else that goes with it. So their way of just basically just going back out there so they don't have to deal with anything, I think is one possibility. Me, whenever I broke up out of a relationship, I pretty much just shut down. I pushed everybody away. I didn't talk about it. And I think a lot of other men are that way, because they've told me that. It's just kind of like, we don't know. And we've been raised to where therapy is not an option, especially in the area that I live at. You're just not allowed to talk about your feelings. It doesn't matter if it's with a friend or with a family member or somebody in the church, or an actual therapist. We have been raised to say, no, you can't talk about this stuff. You can't do it. So that just sits there, and we want to, in the worst way, talk about it, but for the most part, we've never really talked about it. So we don't know how to express our feelings. We don't know how to get that out of our system. So we take to other ways of processing. And I know I've had some friends that have went down the alcohol road, because they're so hurt and they're so lost, and it's just like, well, I'll just drink my problems away. Well, I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of us know that that's not a real good option. It doesn't really get you anywhere. It just, I know it numbs the pain for a while, and that's basically the best that men can hope for, is we just want to numb the pain because we don't know how to express it and talk about it. So tearing down a man for any reason, it's kind of like, okay, well, and I listen to today's music, and I hate to say, I don't listen to a lot of it. I listen to some of it, but there's so much where I mean, I hate to say it, but it's almost like it's man bashing out there. And I've tried to, now granted, I grew up, listening to 70s, 80s, 90s, all of that music. And the vast majority of it, it was rare that you actually really tore down a woman. You always try to build them up, or like me, many times stuff, it's always been, I guess my fault. So I allow that to come down on my shoulders. But I find there's like a lot of, basically hateful things being said about men, and about, basically building somebody else up on the back of men. And it's like, I don't understand why we're doing this. I'm kind of confused on it. And it's like, okay, I'm not sure why we have to go about it this way, but maybe that's just the way the society is anymore. It's kind of confusing. I have to admit, I've talked to a lot of people about it, and we're all kind of equally confused. So I wish I had an answer, because a lot of my podcasts I have an answer or a way of going about it, but it's kind of like this one here. I gotta be honest, I'm kind of up in the air. Another way that, like if you're trying to figure out whether the man has a broken heart or where he's at, a lot of times if he's a broken man, and I was for years, I'm not going to lie about that. After my divorce, I was completely broken. It took me time. There was a lot of hate and a lot of discontent in my heart. I didn't let anybody near me. That's another reason why, you can tell if you see a damaged man or a broken man. Most of the time he won't let you near. It doesn't matter who you are. It can be just friend, or if you're trying to pursue a more romantic relationship, he won't let you near. So you have to be really, really careful on how you approach him, because basically you're only going to get one shot at him. And if he feels, basically like you're out to get him, or you're out to hurt him, or you're just going to use him, he's going to shut down even further, and he's going to push you away a lot more. And I have to admit, that's what I did for years and years and years. Is I probably missed out on some good relationships, I'm guessing. I mean, I don't exactly have them beaten down the door to try to date me or anything like that. But there's possibility that because of my bitterness and my anger, that I missed out on some good relationships. And that's all because I didn't know how to process those emotions. I didn't know how to talk about it. I didn't know how to get them out of my system, because essentially they kind of turn into poison inside. So when somebody else that actually comes along, and they have all the best intentions in the world, they could mean everything there, they actually want to have a relationship with you. The problem is you've been hurt so many times, you just wonder, okay, what's up your sleeve? What do you want? Are you just basically trying to use and abuse me for my money, or for a vehicle, or something there? You just automatically just start wondering, okay, what's up their sleeve? It's kind of like playing chess. You start moving the pieces around, but you don't show what your true intentions are, so you can get and you can get your partner into checkmate. But the checkmate could be where it could be a healthy, wonderful, loving relationship. It could be just an amazing, strong friendship, or it could be used against you and to tear you down even further. And when you have a man that has been broken, and I'm not afraid to admit, I was broken bad. After my divorce, it destroyed me. I felt like a complete failure as a man, because it's like I let my marriage fall apart. I didn't know what else to do. I was out of options. I read books, I read articles, trying to find any way to salvage it, and the divorce just destroyed me. But I wasn't allowed to show it. I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody about it. I didn't have anybody to talk about it. Most everybody ended up just leaving me high and dry. And when I did try to talk about it, it was kind of like, well, it was your fault because you're the man and you should have done something to salvage your marriage. Well, in a marriage, there's two people, and you both have to bring 100% to the relationship, and anything less than that, it's not going to work. And I did everything I could because I wanted to give my son, the mom and dad that he deserved, the good foundation and everything there. But when it was all said and done, I was bitter and hateful for years because I hurt. I mean, there was such a loss, and I didn't know how to process it, and I didn't think at the time it was okay to grieve. I mean, you're losing a relationship. I mean, I put 17 years of my life, into that relationship. I mean, that's almost I mean, that's incredible. I mean, that's like 20% of your life you put into a relationship, and then just to kind of lose it was kind of like, oh, this, I didn't know how to process it. And people would come and talk to me. They would say, what's your problem? Why don't you just suck it up? Why don't you just move on? You're a man. You're supposed to just be able to just, take it on the chin and keep right on and moving like it didn't bother you. So that's the way I was raised, that's what I did. So I learned to compartmentalize it, to lock it away, because I had a son that needed me still. I still needed to put food on the table. I couldn't miss work because then I didn't have money coming in. I mean, there's always bills to pay and everything. So I locked it away. My depression kicked in. That's another reason that you can tell if a man's been hurt bad. I was deeply hurt in the whole thing. So depression has been like a constant friend for many, many years. And it was really like, how do I move on? Where do I go from here? I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't even know what the next step was. I read articles and I had to try to figure out. And the only thing that I came up with is I basically just had to lock it away and be done, because I felt so alone. And for the most part, I was alone. There was nobody there that I could talk to about my feelings and the emotional roller coaster. Whether you care to admit it or not, men do go through a period of mourning and sadness when they lose somebody. It doesn't have to be just in marriage, but it can be just any kind of important relationship to him. And when that happens, most of the time we end up just pushing everybody out of our life, because it's like, I don't know, I just don't know what the next step is. So when you're trying to figure out, if it's okay to tear a man down, all I can say is I don't tear other people down. It doesn't matter what the reason is. If I don't like them, I'm just not around them. There's no reason to be around them. But I'm still completely lost on when it became okay to tear men down and just basically treat them like garbage anymore. And I'm completely befuddled by it when I have done nothing but try to build people up my entire life. So this whole new way of things is so foreign to me, and I'm not attacking anybody by any way, shape, or form. If anything, I'm like confused. It's kind of like we have old world beliefs, and that's the way I was raised, and I do my very best to maintain that, to be the best man that I can, and to be an honorable man. But those beliefs are basically they don't work with the new way anymore. And a lot of men, I mean, I've had men come to me and ask me, what are you going to do about it? What are your thoughts? And it's like, I don't know. I am completely, I'm out in left field. I don't know anymore. But I just find it really, really odd that it's okay to tear men down, kick them around, but then the moment that you need security or you need somebody to take care of you or provide or anything like that, then you come running back and you expect us just to be able to just take you back and accept you, even though all the harsh and cruel things that you said. And it's like, oh, you only get one, like I've told, and I've had previous relationships where they've come back to me and asked, will you take me back? And the answer has always been no. I've never taken somebody back, because I put 100% into any relationship I've ever been in. Doesn't matter if it's friendship, doesn't matter if it's romantic. I put 100% into it. You only get one shot at me. That's what it comes down to. And if you made the determination to walk away from me or push me out of your life, then that's it. And then I don't know what else to do, because I felt vulnerable with you. I opened myself up to you. I wanted you as a part of my life. And when you walked away, it told me that there was nothing there. There was nothing left. So if you're essentially, if you want to date a broken man, you're going to have to be very, very patient. It's going to take a long time, basically, to get through him, because our trust has been broken. We don't know who to talk to, because you're not allowed to talk about your previous relationships. You can't talk about what's bothering you. You just basically have to be in the moment and be a happy, lucky 100% of the time for everybody else, and be that rock and that pillar for everybody. And I got to be honest, that most of us men, we have no problem doing that. We want to be there, and I want to if I'm in a relationship, I want to build that person up. I want to protect them. I want to be there for them. If they're having a bad day, I want them to come and talk to me. I want to listen, and all of this stuff. But to try to find somebody that's worthy of that admiration and that dedication is really, really tough. And after you've been hurt so many times, you just get to a point, you're kind of like a puppy that kind of keeps getting hit on the end of the nose with the newspaper because they're being bad. It's kind of how you feel after a while, because it's like every time you try this because this is what everybody wants you to do, so you head that way and you get smacked in the nose. So then you reverse think, go to the other way, and you get smacked in the nose again, because that's what society says, that's what you're supposed to be. And it's like, okay, we're at a point to where you want men that are emotional, they'll talk about their feelings, they're a little bit softer, they're going to be there for you, all of this stuff. And the moment that we start showing it, then we basically get berated for it, knocked down. So then we go to the other way, like we did in the old days, where you lock everything up. We're basically walking around with robots, and I have no feelings and nothing bothers me and all of that stuff. And then you get in trouble for that one too. So it's kind of like we're not sure what to do, to be honest. And honestly, it's like, okay, I want to be in a relationship with somebody, but it's like, do I bring my old world beliefs to the table, or do I try to switch them up a little bit into this new way? But the old world beliefs is all I know, and I believe in holding the door open, making supper for the person, spending time with them, being there, sending them texts saying, hey, I'm thinking of you, or just anything to show that, hey, I'm here for you. It doesn't matter the time. It doesn't matter, what's going on. I'm always here for you. But there's probably one quote that really, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, and please don't take it away. I've tried to do everything possible to be positive in this podcast. But there's one quote that I heard a long time ago, and it always kind of just hangs in the back of my head. And the quote is, there's nothing stronger than a broken man who has rebuilt himself. And I truly believe that, because like when we trust somebody, it basically tears us down right to the ground, and we have to start putting ourselves back together again. And there's a lot of times we don't know how to do that. And I know there's reasons to walk away from a relationship. It could be toxic, or it could be abusive, and there's so many different things that that you can walk away from. But to me, I just don't understand the hatred for all the men out there anymore, and it's got me completely blown away. And that's basically the whole reason that I wanted to talk on the podcast today. Just know that for the vast majority of the time, men don't need to be fixed. Granted, some of them can, some of them are really rough around the edges. I'm not going to argue that point. Some of us are pretty rough around the edges. But most of the time, we just need time to heal from the wounds that were inflicted on us from previous relationships. If somebody just show a little bit of love and a little bit of understanding and support through the tough times, I think that would go a long ways to basically helping us out and getting us back on track. For somebody, like I said, I haven't been in a relationship in a decade. And honestly, I've been out of the game so long that I'm not even sure I would know how to get back into a relationship. It blows me away. I honestly don't know. And then to try to be with somebody of the new age, and it's like, I'll bring my old school beliefs to it, but I don't think they work quite as much as they used to anymore. So, basically, I wish I had some good news, and I'm trying to find a way to end the podcast in a positive way. Just if you're trying to understand a broken man, or you're trying to understand us, there's one last quote that I heard that I think fits. Now, granted, I know there's going to be a lot of men that are mad at me. There's probably going to be a lot of ladies out there that are mad at me. But this is something, and I have to say that this resonates with me as well. Here it is. I'm tired of being strong. For once, I want to let my vulnerable and weak side show without being judged, and have someone take care of me for a change. And that's to me, that rings home. Those two quotes there that I talked to you guys about, that really rings home. And for me, that would allow me to maybe be able to jump back into the dating world and get into a healthy relationship. But as of right now, I mean, it's not like I don't have any options. So this is just, all I can do is go off of what everybody else is doing right now. And I have people ask me all the time, how do I get back in the dating world? How do I find somebody? It's like, oh my goodness sakes, I have no idea. And I said, I'm a broken-hearted man. I'm working on trying to put my heart back together. So maybe I would be a good recipient for somebody. I could be there for them. I want to support them, build them up. I mean, I'll always be that way. But to allow them in, basically past the walls, and to be vulnerable with somebody again, that's actually really, really a tough thing for me to be able to do. And I know there's a lot of men that are like me out there, because we talk all the time, but we don't know where to start anymore, because we want to be in relationships, and we just don't know. In this new world, it's so confusing anymore. So I don't know if any of this podcast has made any sense. I honestly don't know. I'm just hoping, remember, I'm not attacking anybody in any way, shape, or form. My only hope with this whole podcast was so you understand a broken man's heart a little bit more, and some of the emotions, some of the feelings, everything that goes right along with it, and kind of how we are. Because I know it's misconstrued of, well, they're just cold, heartless, mean, angry, disgusting, dirty men. And nothing could be further from the truth. Granted, there are some out there, I'm not going to argue that point, that's just the way they are. I'm not going to argue that one there. But for the vast majority of us and the stuff there, we do want to be in a healthy relationship. We want to be there for our partner. We want to be there to build them up, support them, love them, and all that stuff. Just, if you're thinking about being with a broken man, all I can say is you're going to need a lot of patience and some time to allow them to come around. And like me, if God forbid I ever find anybody that wants to put the time in with me and get to know me and not judge me for everything that I've went through, you're going to get a good man. There's no doubt about that. Take care of you, be there for you. It's just the way it is. So please don't think that this episode, I apologize if any of it come across as harsh. That's not my intent. You know, from all my podcasts, I'm always very, very positive. I just wanted to give you another viewpoint a little bit of some of us men that are damaged and some of us that are broken. It's going to take time for us to get back into the world and trust somebody again. It's not saying that we can't. I don't want it misconstrued that way, that we can't. It's just, if you're going to get into a relationship with us broken men, just give us a little bit of time to heal from the wounds and be supportive and be there for us. And I think that'll go a long ways. And just give us time to come around. But, the whole thing of tearing men down, it's just really, really tough for me to understand, and I don't quite understand why it's happening. So it's just give us a little bit of time. Like me, I have to take my old world beliefs and I have to try to figure out how to hang on to them, because that's who I am. That's what makes me me. But yet I've got to adapt to today's new ways of doing things and new beliefs and new viewpoints of men. So I'm hoping that this did not come across in a harsh way, because it was not meant to be. But broken men deserve to be loved for the good person that they are, and to have somebody not take them for granted, to not use and abuse them or stab them in the back without warning. It's just a long road. So if you're going to get involved, with a broken man, just be patient. And I think honestly, in the end, it's worth it, because I think you'll get a really good man. There's just a lot of us out there that are still trying to figure out how to get through all this. It's tough. So hopefully some of this makes sense to you. It's completely up to you. I'm hoping it does. For me, I have a lot of questions yet. To be honest, I'm used to bringing answers to the table, and I just don't have them. I keep trying, but I'm still learning myself, unfortunately. So, as I'm way over on time now for my normal length of the podcast, I'm still going to end it on the dad joke of the day. I just have to leave it with something positive all the way through this. So if you're ready to go, here's the dad joke of the day. Do you know where cows shop? From catalogs. At least, hopefully, you get a little bit of a chuckle out of my jokes. I told you, I said I'm a pretty funny guy. Thank you so much for listening. You guys are amazing. You guys are always so wonderful to listen into my podcast. Remember to share, make sure to like everything that you can about it there. I'd love to hear from you there. I'm probably going to get some nasty emails from this one here, but that's okay. If you have it right, then let me know and stuff there. So thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, you got this. And as always, all my love and support, Sean.